That's the sound of a big deal. At Wayfair, that sound happens a lot. Dream sofa for half the price? Big deal. New dining table you've been eyeing for months? Big deal. Finally picking up those last few pieces and finishing that bedroom? Now that's a really big deal. Whatever your home needs, Wayfair has the selection, the savings, and over millions of 5-star reviews to back it up. Shop Wayfair.com today before someone else snags your big deal.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
The new Wegovy pill is now available through Weight Watchers. Powerful GLP-1 results in a simple pill at the lowest price available. And with Weight Watchers, you can get doctor support and personalized nutrition programs. See if you qualify at WeightWatchers.com. Ad not reviewed or approved by Novo Nordisk.
Welcome to the Next Level podcast. This show is for leaders, builders, and bold thinkers who know they're meant for more and are finally ready to stop waiting and start moving. The Next Level Lab is where confidence meets clarity, where identity turns into action, and where bold decisions create real momentum. Here we'll talk about leadership, growth, energy, mindset, and what it actually takes to build a life and a business that feel aligned, powerful, and totally yours. You'll hear real conversations, real stories, real strategies. No fluff, no playing small, and no waiting until you feel ready. This podcast is your permission to lead louder, move faster, and own your next level. I'm your host, Callie Wiley. Let's freaking go. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm really excited today, so I'm going to dive right in, but there's a lot of change happening in my brand, in the podcast, what to expect. And I want to give you a little insight. I've given a lot of teasers on social media, but if you don't follow me on social, you're probably very confused. And you have probably seen over the last few weeks, the podcast name changed from Moments That Matter to the Next Level Lab. Lots of little changes happening. You'll notice that if you're in any of my other content, like you come to Power Hours or anything, content around Power Hour is shifting. My brand is shifting. My brand voice is shifting. And there's a lot happening. And so I want to give you a little insight as to why the pivot and where I came from to get on this journey, but also share a little bit about my whole story, because I've had a lot of people reach out recently asking how I got so successful with this so quickly. And wow, you're going from audio to the next step so fast. Like, there's so much here that people just may not know. And so we're going to talk about some of the journey that I've been on. And so you guys, I started podcasting back in 2016. I started with the Nutrition Rookie 2016, 10 years ago, talking about nutrition, talking about wellness, talking about weight loss, talking about my relationship with food, with body image, with eating disorders, talking all things health, wellness, nutrition. And from that, it really was just this platform for me to share my story and to share other people's stories and get connected with people that were in the same space. Because when I got into that space, I felt really alone. When I started my weight loss journey and I started tapping into fitness and movement, I was really scared. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know communities, culture, any of it. And so it was really this idea of, I'm going to take this journey and connect with people. I'm going to connect with people this way through shared stories and through the journey of podcasting. And so I started back in 2016 with that. Over time, things have shifted. I've had the same brand idea, I guess, the same message all the way through, always talking about building confidence, body positivity, leading yourself, leading your company, carrying energy, affirmations, the whole 9 yards. And so I shifted in 2020 to the Core Glow podcast, got hit with a trademark infringement. If you've been around for that one, that was a fun time. And then shifted to the Glowponent method. I owned the Glowponent method until 2022, doing a lot of the same stuff, right? Finding how to make yourself glow, how to take back your life, how to step into your greatest self. And in 2021, everything changed for me. I know that I've shared a lot about this and kind of the journey with what that looks like. But I was podcasting, I was working full time, I was doing all the things. I was running this company on the side, and then my mom died. And everything shifted, right? Everything shifts when something like that happens. And you start to realize, like, oh crap, nothing's promised. And all I've done is work 80-hour work weeks, and I don't miss out. Like, I miss out on everything. I don't go home for the holidays. I don't spend time with people. I just go all in at 1,000%, which is not always a bad thing. But when it starts to cost you your relationships, you start to reflect. And I got really intentional with time with my dad after my mom died, and he moved in with us, and it was awesome. And then my dad died 6 months to the day after my mom died, and things rattled me. I could not show up on the podcast anymore. I was not a great podcast host. I was not a great friend. I was not great to be around. I struggled severely, and my capacity was shot. And so my capacity turned from this, like, I can go 1,000,000 miles an hour all the time, and I say yes to everything, and I do all the things, and I was volunteering and running a business on the side and working full time and doing all these things. And I kept trying to do that, but my capacity was at 0. And so I kept taking on opportunities. I kept getting the promotions. I kept chasing more hours at work. I kept going all in. And in the middle of it, I started to realize that tomorrow is not promised. I started to realize, hey, what if I took a step back? Hey, what if I intentionally made time with people? And then my friend Christina died in January of 2024, just over 2 years ago. And I made a promise to Christina when she was really sick that we would move back to Reno. We were living in Phoenix. And when Christina approached me, probably 4 or 5 months before she passed away, it was a very serious conversation of, hey, I need you to move back for my kids and for my husband and for that sense of community. And that's really important to me. And when I got to spend time with her in her last 24 hours, there was a conversation around like, hey, but like, when are you coming back to Reno? So we relocated, because that's what you do. You honor your people, you honor your friends, you honor your commitments. And in that time of relocating out of Phoenix and back into Northern Nevada, things started to really pivot for me. I was still working a lot. I was still traveling a lot. I was still doing a lot of things, and I was missing out on things. I was missing out on friends. I was missing out on family things. I was missing out on everything because I was gone all the time, living this glorified career that I thought I really wanted, that I worked really, really hard to get. And I realized that my capacity started to just dwindle every day, and my emotional capacity. And I was taking anti-anxiety medication just to get through. And I was panicking and throwing up before flights, just trying to get by. And I was really struggling with some health things and had some pretty severe situations happen with some health issues and ended up having surgery. And all of it ended up being this like stress, anxiety, capacity issue of just, I am not emotionally well enough to do all these things. And so I set out on this journey of what really matters, right? What really matters in life? It's coffee dates, FaceTime, phone calls, responding to text messages, time with people, dinner parties, time at the holidays, being present on a Sunday on a walk with a friend, being present at home. What really mattered? Being able to go on trips with friends, being able to connect with people that live out of town and actually have the time and capacity to host. Hosting people in my home is my love language. Hosting is my absolute love language. And when you're on the road full time and you work from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., that's not reality. You can't do that. And so I quit my job. I resigned. I knew that my capacity was not there to lead a team of people. I was in a vice president role, and I knew I couldn't show up for people anymore. I knew that I needed to heal. I needed to focus. I needed to refocus. I needed to take time to be able to move my body again. I'd stopped moving my body. I mean, I was still moving somewhat, but like intentional 90-minute workouts were gone. I did not have the time. I did not have the capacity. And I started doing those things again. I knew I had to heal, but I didn't know what I was going to do beyond that, which is terrifying and not the advice I would normally give. But when you're in that space that you are like, oh no, what do I do? How do I heal from this? You make crazy sacrifices, right? It was this moment of like, I'll die if I don't take care of myself right now. I will physically die. My health can't take any more of this. I am literally not sleeping due to my anxiety. Xanax isn't working anymore. And that's a problem. And so I took this leap of faith to just say, hey, I'll figure it out. And in my healing journey, a few weeks after I'd quit my job, I launched the Moments That Matter podcast, because so much of my journey is sharing an entire season of How do we heal? How do we get out of our way? What do we talk about? How do we talk about grief? How do we talk about finding who you are? How do we talk about confidence? How do we find our own style? You guys, I lived in a space for the last 12 years, 13 years, living for other people. I spent the last 13, 14 years living for other people, dressing for other people, dressing for jobs, dressing for roles, dressing for what I thought I wanted, speaking how I thought other people wanted me to speak, saying what I thought other people wanted me to say. My like personal voice had turned into whoever was around me, right? And that's, I mean, proximity principle, Ken Coleman, you turn into the people you are around, right? And the people I was around was who I had morphed into. It wasn't me. It wasn't my style. I wasn't dressing how I would normally dress. I wasn't speaking how I would normally speak. I wasn't showing up for people the way I normally would speak, like show up for people. So we started talking about all those things on the podcast, and it was so relatable. It was so good. I had so many people that were like, oh my gosh, but what are you doing? How is this a thing? You're sharing so honestly, you're sharing so raw. I'm sharing my grief, you guys. I'm sharing my grief. I'm sharing my journey. I'm being okay with being vulnerable. And in the process, I launched this company called The Next Level Lab, which coaching, team development, public speaking, really leveling up your freaking life. You guys, it's really owning your life is what it's come down to. If you're a business owner, if you're in leadership, it's how do you find that voice and get out of your own way and build a life of your dreams and take back what's yours, right? It's taking back what's yours. It's building that confidence. I've had the opportunity over the last 6 months to work with a lot of teams, doing team development, working on confidence. Because y'all, if you have a team that is not confident in what they're doing, good luck. And that starts with who we are as people. Starts with who we are as people. I've done sales trainings. I teach a lot of emotional intelligence with teams. I also teach an emotional intelligence course with my girl, Melissa. We teach that for continuing education for HOA World. I teach a lot of emotional intelligence. I launched Power Hours, which are free resources. I do leadership coaching and development with teams. I do one-on-one coaching with executives, mostly owners of businesses. I have a couple of executive level leaders that I work with. We get stuck in our own way. And so I have these two things rolling, right? I have this podcast that's really about my healing journey and my grief journey and getting out of your own way. And it starts to morph, right? Because I'm in this space now and I'm talking about what we're doing. I'm working with clients. I'm working with teams. I'm on stages speaking. I do a lot of keynote speaking as well, which I feel very grateful to have the opportunity to do. But I started to shift, right? I started to heal. And over the last 6 months, Moments That Matter has healed me. And I hope that it brought you a lot of joy too and helped shift your perspective. But y'all, seasons change. And this podcast is not ending. This is just the beginning of this podcast. And that gives me freaking goosebumps to talk about. But this is just the beginning because we were in a season, y'all, and everyone gets to have their seasons. But my word of the year is unstoppable, which every episode since this year has started, you've heard. And I've gotten really inspired by people I've talked to, conversations I've had. And so there's going to be some shifts happening. Podcast is shifting to the Next Level Lab podcast, y'all. I'm keeping it all in one brand. When I launched all this, I didn't know my brand voice. I didn't know what I was talking about. Like I knew my content. I didn't know what I wanted that to look like. And now I've hyper-focused in what does my brand look like? What does that voice look like? What am I trying to convey? And it's time to shift out of Moments That Matter. And we will still talk about owning your life. And part of being a successful business owner and leader is boundaries to pour into your family, pour into your friends, pour into your nieces and nephews, pour into your people. But it's going to look a little different because y'all, your girl's never going to not hustle. You know this about me. You know that I love hustling. You know that I love building. You know that I love building big business. And so that's what we're shifting to. The Next Level Lab podcast is going to sit in a lot of new content that's going to hyper focus on deeper conversations with imposter syndrome. We're going to talk about success. We're going to talk about money. We're going to talk about money and success, networking, connection, making really bold moves, getting out of your own way. And y'all, what's going to come from this is people on the podcast. I've always had guests on the podcast until this one. And it's time. It's time to hustle all the people that I get to connect with, that I have the opportunity to know. It's time to share their stories. It's time to get connected with people. And I feel very privileged because I get to be around incredible humans that push me, level me up, carry me on, say my name in rooms I'm not even in a positive way. They sell business for me without me even being there. It's really incredible. And I want these people to be share their stories and their journeys too, because y'all, they're conversations I'm having. Because when you have a leveled up network, these are the conversations you have when you go out to coffee is, hey, I'm struggling because my biggest goal this year is to buy a second home. And I mentioned that in a room and everyone turned and said, whoa, really? And when you're in the right room, everyone turns and says, hell yeah, where are we buying? Right? And so these are the conversations I have with people in my network, and I'm really excited to bring them on. Now, if you're listening and you're a friend of mine, I am so sorry because you will get hustled into being on this podcast. That is just the name of the game. If you look back, all of my people have been on the podcast at some point or another, and we're not stopping that now. So, but what is that going to look like? Your girl's making a big break to YouTube, which is hugely exciting for me. I'm at a decade of podcasting and never once have done a podcast that's not just raw audio. I've never once done a video podcast, and it's time. It's time because we're headed in the direction. We're going to start doing the things that we want to do and not being fearful. Y'all, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know the camera setup. I don't know anything, but I bought cameras and I have someone in my circle that's willing to help set those up. And I have people that are going to help me make this happen. And that's what we do. So we're rolling to YouTube. You will still find the podcast on all the same streaming services. You will still find Apple, Spotify, directly from my listening platform. You're going to see some shifts to my website. If you use my website for the podcast links, you're going to see some shifts. I'm going to try to get some live streaming directly from that so that you can watch the YouTube video straight from my website as well, if that's easier for you. But the conversations are going to get bigger. I'm talking to people with big ambition, with big goals, wanting to make bold moves, wanting to get out of their own way, wanting to build business. But we're not losing sight of what truly matters, right? We're still connecting with our people. We're still connecting with our people. We're still taking time to go to dinners. We're still taking time to have coffee with people. We don't build big business to get consumed. I launched this business to be able to do what I want. I just booked a trip to Oregon, and y'all know that Oregon's my safe space. And I have a couple people that I am working with up there and some clients, and you know, I love that area. And so it was a very easy, I'm going for a week because I've got friends up there too. I've got people up there that I really love and that I really adore. And so if I can double that and I can go support businesses up there that I also freaking love, shout out to Tito's Taquitos, you know that I will be there. But that's freedom. That's business freedom, is saying, I'm going to go do the thing. I'm going to stay an extra 2 days. I'm going to stay an extra 2 days to connect with people, have dinner with people, have coffee with people. If you're from Portland and you're listening and you do want to get coffee, let me know. Would love to connect with some new people as well. If we are not connected already, let me know. But that's the cool part about business. When you get to be in this space that you say, yeah, I work really hard and I work weird hours, and y'all, I work most Saturdays because I have clients that need to meet on Saturdays, and I work a lot of evenings and I record a lot in the evenings. But I get to have the freedom to do what I want when I want to. I get to have the freedom to do what I want when I want to. That's power. I don't miss my nephew's football games. Let me tell you, that's business ownership power. We're going to talk about all those things. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the guilt. We're going to talk about the hard. We're going to talk about every time you freaking fail, because everyone in my circle fails all the time. Everyone fails because they're all willing to try again. And that's pretty cool. So a lot is happening, you guys. A lot is happening, but I wanted to be able to do this quick episode because it's going to be dark for a couple of weeks. You will see the podcast reemerge. Hopefully, if all goes as planned, the rebrand launch is scheduled for the week of February 10th. So Tuesdays will still be when the podcast is released. But the big rebrand announcement will come that week of the 9th. I'm very, very excited. Now, if you've also been in my world, I'm releasing a second podcast that will also be streaming on all everything, everywhere, everything, called the Basically Strangers podcast with my girl, Lauren. We just recently met and we've traveled together. We've built business together. We have really connected very quickly, very, very quickly. And so sharing the power behind sisterhood and girlhood and what that looks like. So get ready for that as well. if you do not follow my website, CallieWiley.com, all these updates are going to come. Don't go yet because it is a disaster over there trying to fix things to get things ready for this. If you follow me on Instagram, it's Callie Renee is my Instagram handle. You're going to see all the updates. I've been sharing very vulnerably, very raw about all of this. And so I'm very excited to get this all rebranded, get this relaunched, share a little bit about my journey, share a little bit about my voice and really where I'm coming from. But y'all, 2026 is unstoppable. We're going to do bold things. I could have been so attached to this brand and so attached to what I was doing and not pivoted. But instead I looked back and I said, hey, this is not my voice. This is not my brand. This is not what I'm trying to convey. I want to convey powerful success, ownership, bold, let's freaking go. And my brand conveyed not that. My brand was very fluffy and cute, which is really not the perception I'm going for. So thank you for being here. I am so excited to get this relaunch taken care of and going. And the next time you see me on the podcast, you'll be able to look at my face on YouTube, which is crazy and gives me goosebumps and makes me terrified, but makes me really freaking excited. So go share with your friends the updates. Go share it on social media. That helps me a ton. Like and subscribe. The podcast will still be linked to this exact same link. Nothing will change. But the more you can share about this, the better. There will be a ton of launch stuff coming out the week of April 9th or February 9th. Good gravy. The week of February 9th. And any sort of brand shares you can do, I would really appreciate. As always, if you ever want to connect outside of the podcast, reach out to me. I gave my Instagram, my website. My email is on my website. My email is just hello@calliewiley.com. I would love to connect with all of you. So I will see you all soon. I'll see you on the other side on YouTube, and let's freaking go.